Hello and welcome to another episode of IT Pro TV. I'm your host Mike Roderick, and with me today is Mr. Sean Oriano. How are you, Sean?
I am doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. We got another exciting episode coming your way, continuing on with our Kali Linux series. And we left off, Sean, in a previous episode talking about some of the phases involved in doing a penetration test and doing a little compare and contrast between what we've got here and maybe some of the other vendor-specific penetration models, if you will.
Yeah, there's and that's the thing we're trying to emphasize, in the previous section was that when we talked about doing that reconnaissance, is that there's this whole process is broken up into steps, and each step or phase you have something specific that you're trying to accomplish before you move on to the next phase of the process. The question is, which tools are you going to use and how are you going to approach it? And why every vendor calls it something different. Some vendors actually throw some additional things into it that others don't. Some vendors you might see 5 steps. The other one might have 7 steps. Another one might have 12 steps. No, I'm thinking 12 steps is something else. But they have they'll have all different different series of steps in it. So, like I said, I said before, I'll say it again, is just try to remember what you need to be accomplishing, the sequence that you go through. If you want to break it more into more steps than that, I don't care. If it's your gig, go for it. And you're not, if you want to do it that way, not a problem. Well, going through with that thinking, we did reconnaissance. So we've gotten information about what our target looks like, where they might be, employees, things like that.
IP address ranges, DNS names, all kinds of good stuff like that. So we got a lot of information about them.
Yeah, you could have gathered just a tremendous amount about that specific target. The next question that comes in is how do you act on it, and that's the scanning phase where we start, really seeing what that information translates over into, if you will. When you go into your reconnaissance, you found, like I said, ranges of IPs, DNS information, stuff like that. Now you're going over and saying, okay, well, let me start scanning some of those things that I found to see, what's really there. Maybe narrow down the target and kind of firm things up for the point where I'm going to actually strike at that target. So some really, really important stuff and to do here. And remember, there's not just one way of scanning either. There's a myriad of ways of scanning a system. You can do port scanning. You can do ping sweeps. You can do vulnerability scanning if you want. Just to name a few, you have options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we're just basically taking that information that we gathered in the reconnaissance phase, and that becomes the deliverable, if you will, for that next phase. And now we go into our scanning. And like you said, that's a great example. Take that IP address range. I discovered their range doing my reconnaissance. Maybe I found out what block they had registered with the IANA or something like that. But now, how many do they actually use, right? Which ones are alive? Which ones am I actually going to find on that system? So that's where the scanning phase comes in. This is where we start taking that information we gathered and start seeing what part of it's useful. What can I get from that information?
Yeah, that's the name of the game. We've gotten to the point where we're more actively engaging the system, and we're seeing really what's behind there. We don't just have a pile of information. Now we got to sort through it and really start figuring out what that really means. What do they have, so I can take it a step further. You don't just want to go through and carpet bomb, because that's really all you could do with what you have in the reconnaissance phase. Is you carpet bomb, and it would be the equivalent of just stumbling around in a dark room, looking for a penny or something on the floor. You're going to find it eventually, but someone's going to go in there and go, "What the heck are you doing?" So you don't want that. So you want to be much more precise and really know what you're dealing with. So scanning is going to help you out with that. Fortunately, Kali has a lot of stuff up its sleeve to help us with that scanning process, kind of like what you'd expect. It has just a bunch of different tools to help us out. So we can just kind of quickly take a look at some of the things that we're going to see, some of which we're going to see and work with, in a later section. But just to kind of give you an idea of the types of stuff that we have to address this specific need, Some of the ones you've seen before, or at least know what they do. They just go under a different name or do things a little differently, but the process overall is accomplishing the same task. If you go under our information gathering, because scanning really is the same type of thing. It's information gathering. It's just a more active form of information gathering. So as far as Kaylee's concerned, what do we have? Well, we've got, first of all, this live host identification. Well, you know what that is. That's where we're doing, we have a range of IPs, and we're just saying, okay, which ones of those actually have something living behind it. So we have lots of tools that can do that for us. And if you really look through it, we've got one that we used, all the time. Right on down the list, we have Nmap sitting right there. And I told you in the CEH, told you are not getting away from Nmap at this point. If you don't have it, in your suite of tools, it's going to have to get there really quick.
I was kind of impressed that they actually have the GUI version on there too. They got ZenMap as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I was going to mention that they have ZenMap right there at the bottom too. I scrolled the menu down. It's right there. ZenMap. So you do have that, but remember the limitation with ZenMap. You can't do everything through ZenMap. So that would be kind of a deal breaker on some of it.
We're in Kali Linux. Who's going to play with the GUI? Come on, break out that shell.
Yeah, if you play with the GUI in this, you're a baby, and I don't want to talk to you. You get to sit at the small table.
That's right. You get the kids' table at Thanksgiving.
But you can see, other ones that are useful for doing scanning. We can see, stuff. We have NCAT, NetCat. We've got, just bunches and bunches and things in here designed specifically to gather information about live hosts. I mean, when we mentioned in the CEH course, but we didn't get to do it, was HPing. HPing 3 is the current version of that. We're going to see that. We're actually going to be working with that and see how that can do that scanning, how that can craft packets for you to gain more information about that target. Okay, so once we've done that, so we've determined live hosts. We know we've got to do that. That's one sub-phase of the scanning process, is to gather information about what hosts are live and which ones aren't. Okay, then that takes us to what the next thing is, and that's doing scanning our network. Okay, if you do scanning our network, what do we have here? We have a lot of the same things we saw in our live host identification, and you'll see ZenMap right there. It's sitting right there, ZenMap and Nmap, so same deal. I mean, so we've got those guys handy and ready for us to do what we need to. So that would be part of our scanning process. So it has a full suite of tools there for mapping out that and Nmap. It's also got one of my favorite tools in there, names of a tool, Unicorn Scan.
Unicorn Scan.
Yeah.
Just in case you've got any of those pesky unicorns on your network, we've got to be able to find them and get rid of them.
I don't know if you guys looked, but you joke around about unicorns being mythical. If you look at the papers, North Korea says they were there. They said they found out where they came from. Not kidding. They found a cave in a mountain that they said unicorns came from North Korea, and we know how reliable they are, so you got to trust it.
I mean, that's like seeing it on Wikipedia. If they say it's true, it's true.
And you can also buy unicorn meat off of Amazon. If you don't believe me, go look it up.
So scanning, anyways, for unicorns or not.
Like half these people here, they're not even. We should might as well just wait for a second. They're like, no, you can't.
They're Googling it right now. So scanning, gathering information, again, at a much more active level than we were when we're doing our reconnaissance. Now we're typically reaching out and touching the target a lot of times, doing those port scans, doing those network scans, doing those vulnerability scans. I think they got some vulnerability scanning tools in there as well.
Yes, they do have some vulnerability scanning tools in here. If you look, they do have vulnerability analysis. They have stuff, and this is how diverse they are. Look, they have ones for Cisco.
Wow.
Database ones. Here's some fuzzing tools for application checks. I mean, they've got just a bunch of them. There's Nikto, there's Nmap showing up yet again.
One more time.
We've got all these things. I mean, there's just so many. And OpenVAS, if you're not aware of that one, OpenVAS is when Nessus at one point was completely 100% free, and at one point they decided, we want to start taken to commercial because it was originally started as like a project, and it became so popular they said, well, we have a real product here. Let's not stop giving it away for free. So what they did is they made a choice, and they said they forked the product into OpenVAS, which is the free one, and Nessus, which is the paid one. So so when they hit that fork in the road, it's like you can decide which one you wanna go with.
Nice, nice.
They forked their customers by charging. But in any case, yeah, you'll notice it looks somewhat similar to Nessus in some ways. In other cases, it's just like way different. So you may actually want to get something different than that one. But anyway, so we got live hosts. We've done scanning, port scanning, stuff like that, and DNS. Here we have a vulnerability. Those would be the main category or main subcategories under scanning. But then let's just mention it as part of this is remember when we went through the CEH, we said that there was a scanning phase. Now in my book I wrote for the CEH, which you all should have, and if you don't, I'm gonna be upset. See, someone found it. But when I did the CEH book, I did talk about the process of doing penetration testing, and we talked about all the phases back then. But I also took the scanning phase and broke it up into 2 sections because I felt it was too much for one chapter. It's because that second part of scanning was called enumeration. And enumeration was extracting stuff from services and seeing what they could actually reveal to us. So Kaylee can help you with that too. That would still be part of the scanning process. In fact, outside of doing the CEH, the term enumeration is used to be sure, but most people just consider it's scanning and that's it. You won't hear anything else. But EC Council used to call it scanning, and then there also was enumeration phase, but then they started doing what other people did, squish them together, which it doesn't matter as long as it gets done in the right sequence, you're fine. So what that means is that when we go through and we look at what tools we have in Kaylee, what do we have? We have stuff for doing SNMP, SMTP to gather usernames. Remember, we could do that. Nmap is in there because Nmap can help with that. Service fingerprinting. Well, we want to find out what service is back there. That's what this will do. So we have tools that will literally help us out with that. And in fact, you could even throw in stuff like your DNS analysis up top would be part of scanning enumeration, as well as the IDS and IPS stuff. That's going to help there too, because those things are specifically designed to help you target do specific scans that might be blocked or detected by an IDS or IPS in such a way that you can see that they're in the way.
Nice.
So some really neat stuff. And heck, I even like if you get down to the bottom, since we're talking about this, you go to the bottom of the information gathering section. I mean, take a look. They've got stuff for for voice over IP and some other stuff in there too. So they've really brought stuff to the table on this.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're not going to do any voice over IP stuff in here, which I know you may wish we could, but we just don't have that. Don't have the way to do that. But you could technically do that through a product like this. It is extremely powerful in that sense if you had that in your environment.
All right, well, a lot of tools then available for scanning, and I know this is just our high-level overview, kind of an intro to say, look at all these tools that are available. After scanning / enumeration, we'll kind of meld those two together there. What's next? We got exploitation.
Yeah, exploitation it's what they call on the CEH, to kind of put it in context. CEH calls that gaining access. Getting into a system, gaining and / maintaining access would be what's covered by that. Well, we're gonna call exploitation here, and to get into a system. So we've got exploitation, and well, the tools we have for that, just to kind of give you an idea of what's here, is we've got different sections of tools. If you look at it, we have, first of all, thanks for attacking passwords. If you remember. From CEH, we did talk specifically, one of the first things we do, and one of the first things we might try rather, is tackling passwords, seeing if we can break any. And so if you look at it, I mean, we've got so many different types of password crackers. I mean, these offline ones, I mean, look at how many are there. And that menu scrolls back and forth too, by the way. So that's not showing you everything. I mean, they've got LSA dump for going after the stuff on a Windows box right there.
That is a lot of tools at our fingertips here.
Yeah, and we only talked about a small number of these things, you know, in the CEH. I mean, some of these things aren't mentioned anywhere in there because they're just so obscure, and they only have so many pages they can shove into or how much information they can shove into the test and have you be aware of it. But that's fine. You know, I don't care if you know the individual tools. I want you to know what the process means. Then you'll figure out what these tools are. Anyway, you know, other ones. You know, this one, passing the hash. Okay, fine. These are ones for actually extracting hashes and stuff like that that are used in a lot of passwording systems. So that's just that first part of doing. Of gaining access and doing an exploit. You might be home free at that point and be, ooh, yeah, I got a password. I can log in and go on in. But that's not it. I mean, of course that's not it, right? There's other things we have in here too. We have a whole section appropriately called exploitation tools. If we look at what's in here, you know, you've got all sorts of testing frameworks. I mean, there's Beef. That's something that is really neat for doing some web stuff. We're going to be taking a look at that a little bit. Some Cisco stuff again, database stuff. I mean, all sorts of things. Metasploit, the big boy. We're going to be going and talking about that next week. So we won't be doing too much about that here. Network stuff. You know, if we're going through and scanning and playing around with networks, and even this one's one of my favorites. It might not necessarily be just at the gaining access stage, but the social engineering toolkit. Okay, I mentioned this as kind of like a blip on the radar when we did CEH. You know, that was it. I just said, well, you know, there's a social engineering toolkit if you want to take a look at it for Linux, and I just left it at that. Well, here we are going to actually see what that does, and it's something that helps you craft a social engineering attack. So we've got a tool here that actually we didn't have really in the CEH course. We had access to email and instant messaging and stuff like that would help us do it, but we didn't have something like this that's specifically designed to craft and plan these attacks. So you're going to see that. Some pretty exciting stuff there. You know, and we've got other things just all through here that could be used to help us look for various pieces of information or gain access. I mean, there's stuff to go through websites and to scan websites, to really find all sorts of stuff that could be of use to you.
Wow, lots of tools, and it doesn't stop there, right? Our next phase, once we've exploited the target, we've found our way in, maybe gather some more information, then we want to make sure we can get back in, right, anytime we want to, and that'd be our maintaining access phase.
Yeah, that's the next logical thing you do. Let me back up on that. It might be the next logical thing you do. It depends. You may be doing a quick smash and grab where you go in, you get the stuff you want, and you're done. You never need to come back. There are attacks that are designed specifically like that. That you just smash it, get what you want, done. You off. You ride off in the sunset, and let someone else clean up the mess. But there's cases where you do want to come back, and that's where maintaining access really comes into play. To maintain access is a delicate procedure. What it is it's usually planting something on the system or making an alteration on the system in such a way that it's easy for you to get back in the next time, so you don't have to essentially restart the whole penetration or hacking process to get right in. So for maintaining access, just to kind of give you an idea of what that translates into, what we have here is, I mean, take a look. They have a section right there, OS backdoors. I mean, how clear can you get? It's designed specifically for that, to plant a backdoor. And I can tell you that is not even a complete list of the stuff that's of tools you can use to do that. Tunneling tools. We talked about some of these tunneling tools, previously in our CEH course. What these are done to bypass things like firewalls and other defensive technologies covertly. I mean, we see, for example, NCAT on here. If you remember, NCAT would allow me to pop in the name of an IP address and port number, attach to it remotely, and I could start, piping commands over and force open to a command prompt and do what I want. Okay, so, but that's all well and good, but the problem is Netcat is in the clear. So someone can sniff that, which means if they can sniff it, IDS, IPS can pick that up.
Right.
Okay, so if you want to change the nature of the game, what do we have there? We go look up at the top of the list, we got CryptCat. That's your answer. It encrypts that whole channel, so therefore you can't read, you can't stop what you can't read if it's encrypted. So we've just thwarted that. And all of these go towards some way of bypassing security when we tunnel them like that. When you think tunneling, think VPN, same type of deal. I mean, you look down there. We even have at the bottom UDP. They have ways of wrapping them up in UDP packets to get it through. You can proxy stuff through other systems. I mean, they've really come to play with this one. And then the last one we have on this maintain access stuff, we're going after websites. It's specifically got that. And think about it. One of the points of entry into a website would very well be, or into a company rather, could very well be that website. That website is the very least for most companies the public-facing resource that they have. Everything else is going to be over the firewall on the other side of it. So they have that web server out there in some capacity. Well, now we're just going to go off the web server, punch into that, and see if we can get through that way. And we're going to look at some of the tools used for doing web application scanning. So that's going to be kind of exciting when you see that we have all these ways of going after that. So that's just the maintaining access part.
Nice.
So we have we're still just moving right along on the stuff that this has. And if you've noticed, there's still quite a few menus on there I haven't hit.
That's what I was thinking.
So there's a bunch. You're like, what do these do? Yeah, we'll get to those in due time. So.
All right. Well, let's hit that last phase then. After we maintain access, if it's not a smash and grab, we want to maintain access. Then we move into that final phase, which is reporting.
Yeah, I mean, remember, it shouldn't come as any big surprise to you that there is a reporting requirement. If you're doing a pen test, by its very nature, if someone's asked you to do a pen test, they are your client and they're paying you, and you need to deliver a report to them on what the issues are you found and make recommendations. If they've asked for that, you need to provide that to them. So. The really neat thing about something like Kaylee is that they also have tools in here that are designed specifically to help you track all that. So you don't have to go someplace else. I mean, you can see they got Maltego, they've got and a bunch of other ones in their documentation stuff. I know Dradis is one that a lot of people like. Stuff for media capture, taking screenshots and videos and stuff like that. So they've tried to be, maybe they haven't done everything perfectly. Of course, you could argue that. I'd say they've done a pretty good job. The reporting tools, they may leave some to be desired, but you've got something there to help you out, and that's the number one thing. I'd rather have something that gets me the nice down and dirty way to collect the information. I can pretty it up later on. But having something right there that I can just quickly type something in and make a note, fine. If it's a digital equivalent of a Post-it note, fine. I can put those in the right order later, as the case may be.
I'm just impressed that they have it at all, because a lot of times you can think of these security tools and things like that. It's more about the action part, the actual doing the attack or gathering the information. Reporting is something that nobody wants to deal with, nobody wants to do, and the fact that they've even got tools loaded up in there that help me keep track of my different steps and phases and information I'm gathering and reporting in the end the results of my penetration test, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great thing that they put that in there. So it's right there in your face saying, hey, we know you need to collect this information, so boom, right here. Some of those tools in there that under that reporting one, or at least one of them, Dradis is something that people have. A lot of people do like it as a reporting tool. So when we get further down the road, we'll bring that up to kind of see what that is. but it is there. They do have that right there. And notice they've also in Kaylee they've also put in the Office suite too, or at least their version of an Office suite. So you've got some basic stuff in there to help you out.
Right.
And you could load LibreOffice or something in there too if you really wanted to. And I would recommend really doing something like that. Those are good, also good ways to keep notes and keep them organized. So you've got those. Something I'll mention here when we're going through this process is that we've talked about these different phases. One of the things you'll notice that's missing from the phases in here is something that the EC Council stresses in their body of knowledge is clearing your tracks, covering your tracks. Well, they don't really. That's not something that we're really even worrying about here. There's ways to do it, but it's something in the overall pen testing world. It's kind of just assumed that if you're maintaining access, it's mushed in there. Anyway, they don't have a separate phase for that or broken out in such a way. It's just like you're trying to be careful about what you do and try to leave as few tracks as possible, so people can't find them easily. Now, if you went through the CEH and the forensics course, you know that there's that it becomes very tough to hide. If someone knows what they're looking for, knows the tricks, they can very easily find a lot of this stuff. So, but they don't really break that out in here. While we're at it, though, there are a couple things I wanted to just point out to you to show you what some other stuff that's hiding out here is. Yeah, we went through a good number of these, the web application stuff we looked at. If you keep going down the list, you'll see some other stuff show up there. I mean, there's our wireless. I mean, look what it's got for wireless. It's got this is the one that impresses me. It's got the 802.11. Okay, we know that. It's got Bluetooth. Okay, well that's pretty neat. You got the other wireless ones. I mean, I think this is Zigbee, or what these ones do, and then RFID and NFC.
Wow.
They've got tools specifically designed to go after that. So they're not even messing around with that anymore. And a lot of people don't even know what I found is a lot of people don't even know what NFC even is.
Yeah, they're like, what, near field? No, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah. Is that another division in the NFL?
Yeah.
But what they've had with NFC, I mean, heck, they're one of the ones I just saw recently. I swear you can YouTube this. They had some guy that shows you the way the public thinks about it. This guy was talking about how the government was spying on him, and he's trying to put this video on YouTube about, yeah, the government's spying. I'm going to tell you how to do it. He goes, because they caught me with blah, 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 blah. And he pulls out the battery from his Samsung Galaxy. He pulls out the battery out of the back and peels the label off of it and says, see, he uses that little square thing for the RFID stuff on there. In this case, it was the antenna for the NFC. That's where Samsung put it, is on their battery. It's a simple thing. They wrap it on there so you can use that feature. This guy's claiming, oh, this is how the government knows what you're doing. They can hear it from a long distance. It's like, no, idiot, that's an NFC. He didn't know what it is. So if you've got just to add to that story, if you've got friends that their battery's all chrome because they peeled the battery off of it, get them a big roll of tinfoil for Christmas.
Yeah, they make hats and all kinds of window coverings and all that good stuff. But
so going through some other tools, other categories on here. There's reverse engineering. We will not be doing that. That's just way outside the scope of what we do here. So if you've got malware and you need to dissect it, you've got tools that you can use as your workbench to dissect those. That's a big topic area. It takes a lot of time and effort to do. Stress testing, I mean, there's sometimes a requirement for that. So you've got that to do stuff. And then this is the one that I just think is really, really neat. Hardware hacking. They got stuff specifically in here for Android and Arduino.
I'll be darned.
So they've gone to a whole another level with that.
Right.
So you're starting to push into that end of things. And the reality is, you will have to test those. At least the Android stuff, you're going to have to test. I mean, that's showing up every place. So there's that. The Arduino, who knows? Right. But you've got some pretty interesting stuff there at your fingertips. Opens up a whole bunch of stuff for you.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. Like I said, don't know how it's going to fit in your actual test, but it's definitely there and available to you. So that's kind of a neat thing, I think.
That is a lot of really good information, and hopefully that just wet the whistle for all the things to come in our future episodes here with Callie. We're going to break down each one of those phases a little bit more detail and actually pull up a couple of those tools and show you how to use them and show what kind of results you would get using those in a penetration test. So looking at the clock, Sean, though, it's about time for us to wrap this one up. Anything else you want to throw in there?
Well, I mean, just remember, this is an overview. I saw it in the discussion group. That's all this is meant to be, is an overview. So if you're thinking it's like, well, when are they going to do stuff with those tools? We are going to do stuff with those tools. Not all of them, but we're going to do stuff with tools from each one of those categories as we go through. So you will see them. You'll see them. You'll see a lot of them in action. You'll have to do some more exploring on your own, but you will see them in action at each step of the way to get a feel for them. And heck, if you've got your virtual machine built, you can play around with it too. Why we're doing it, so you can kind of do the interactive thing with us. So yeah, this is just the overview of the process and how Caley what tools it has to help you address that process. But more to come.
I got mine set up, and I've got Metasploit 3, Metasploitable downloaded already. So. Yeah. I'm ready to hang out with Sean and do some cool stuff here. So
there you go.
Hopefully you guys are too. Well, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed watching this episode. Signing off for IT Pro TV, I'm Mike Roderick.
And I'm Sean Ariano.
And we'll see you next time.